Hello, quick video on how to set up the public server. It's pretty common sense, you might think, but there's one thing you could get wrong with choosing the mission. So let's just pretend now the mission's gone weird, one of the missions is bugged or something like that. We need to restart the server. The most obvious thing to do would be to press escape and hit reset. Unfortunately, that's going to cause you a few problems most of the time. You'll probably turn around and find there's clones of yourself stood behind you, so there's AI versions of yourselves all stood behind you, and some of the missions might not load in properly. So the safest thing to do is either press escape, abort, and go back to the server control panel that way, or you can press M. You can go into server controls and you can press missions. Now if you press missions like that, what you're going to do is be dragged back to this screen here, and you can't just select the mission again because that's just equivalent to restarting. So what you have to do is select a different map. At the moment we're running Patrol Ops, and we're running Patrol Ops version 6.1. So any time you are selecting a mission, it's always going to be higher than 6.1. So you can go back to one of the older versions, for example, and select that first, and then you can go back into the missions and select 6.1. Before you start the missions, two things you really want to consider. You want to press the preset parameters button when you're down in the bottom, when you're on this screen. So the parameters down here, and there's two things you want to consider, and that's the time of day and the type of operations. By default it's set to all operations, but we really want to be at the moment, well, there's not many people playing, just putting it on general operations. Otherwise you might find it's a bit too hard. The next thing we want to do is consider the time of day. In real life, the time of day is 1300. So if I drop that 6 hours back from 1300, I'm going to find it's 7 o'clock, and that'll probably mean when it's 12 o'clock in real life, it's probably going to be 1800, so 6 o'clock in the game, and it'll still be light. You can choose whatever you want for the time of day, but most people prefer to play in the day, so general rule of thumb is set the time 6 hours behind GMT. The rest of the parameters, they're all set by default to how they should be. You probably want to leave them alone. The only thing you might want to consider is ambient air patrols, for example. That's disabled by default, but if you've got a lot of people on, you might want to put some enemy aircraft flying around the map at random. We've already got enemy insurgents. And press OK. Currently we're getting these ACE messages. That's just because the server's running ACE and I'm not. ACE-X, sorry. Alright. So we're in the game. You want to wait till everyone's changed from the white arrow to the blue or light blue colour before you press continue. And we're in the game. Okay, there's two different commands. You probably won't be able to see this, so I'll write them down below this video. But there's two different commands you probably want to know, and when you're admin, and first it's to log in and the second is to log out. So if you type hash log in, and then you put a space, and we'll give you the password. After the space, you're going to type the password. There, and hit enter. The next command you probably want to need to know is #logout, and that'll log you out as admin. It's just a very quick way of logging in and out. Remember to put the hash beforehand. If we go into the maps and press note, we've got a few server rules there, if you want to point people to that. There's also a little bit of information about VCB, and there's a little bit of information about TeamSpeak, how to connect to our TeamSpeak, and then down at the bottom here there's some common problems, so if you're fed up with telling people how to fix their acre, just direct them to this page and it'll tell them all the usual bollocks that we always repeat to everyone. Mission features then, let's have a quick look around at the features. You've got this flagpole here and it says halo jump deploy to MHQ. The only one of those that's valid is deploy to HQ or redeploy to MHQ, and that's round the corner. We'll have a look at that in a second. Next thing we've got here is a board, and if you're a VCB member and you want your standard loadout for, let's say, a rifleman, you can click that. And you'll see here you've got all your standard gear as a rifleman given to you automatically, plus a few extra medical supplies. Crate wise, British is on the left, Americans in the middle. Your general stuff like your chem lights and smoke grenades and things, and your backpacks is in this small box, and obviously the medical stuff's in the medical box. There's also a medical tent here you can use to heal people. We'll pop around the corner here. This is the MHQ I was talking about earlier. So there's very, very few people on the server. You can take this with you to a mission site, and if we hit deploy, that's going to deploy a mobile MHQ. Oops. You've got to get people to stand back when you do that, as you see it flies around a bit. And we can deploy to and from this. So it's a fair people didn't use that personally, but if we don't have enough people to do transport pilots to and from base, then this MHQ we can use definitely. Also, what comes with the MHQ is an ammo box. Next thing we're going to look at is a couple of bugs on the server. There's the one bug on the server. I'm just going to drive over to a plane and get in a plane.